to mind your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, grandnieces, grandnephews, all the children that are going back to school. We have to see them in the joy of that first day of school excitement, your new backpack or your new shoes or your new shirt that you're wearing to school or the uniform that you put on, and how much it just creates a memory, a wonderful, wonderful memory. So let's bless our children together. Child of light, we love you and bless you. We see the Spirit of God within you, guiding, protecting, and prospering you always. And so it is, so it is. Very good. All right. So this morning, start with a little bit of kind of this is a cute one that maybe you've heard this one before. One day, the local town drunk was, the ice fisherman, an inebriated ice fisherman, drilled a hole in the ice and peered into it and when a loud voice rang out from above, and it said, "There are no fish there." So the man walked several yards down and drilled another hole, and again the voice boomed out, "There are no fish there." So then the man stumbled about 50 yards away and drilled another hole, and for the third time the voice yelled, "I told you there are no fish there." So finally the fisherman looked up into the sky and he asked, "God, is that you?" And the voice said, "No, you idiot. I'm the skating rink manager." Oops. Oops. Oops, oops. How did you wander into that? I don't know. Powerful parables to enrich your life. That really the teachings of Jesus that he gave that he felt were most important to him. So Bishop John Shelby Spong, who's passed away now, was an Episcopal priest that I always remember. He came and spoke for us in Nashville, and he said he came through a time when at his Episcopal church, 2 gay men asked him to marry them, and he didn't know if he could do that and not be defrocked or whatever. So he went to Princeton University and studied for 1 year on how that would all be right or wrong, or how to respond to that. And at the end of the year, he did marry the couple, and then he was booted out of the church he was serving. But he was a great intellectual mind in terms of how he expressed spirit. I love his work. He's written a lot of books. But anyway, he said in our message today, Powerful Parables to Enrich Your Life, he said, "A complaint is often heard that Christianity and the sacred passages of Scripture have become irrelevant and obsolete in our technologically advanced world, a world with instruments that can see at once to the end of the universe and deep into the subatomic fabric of reality. However, when the true depths of the parable lessons are unlocked, it becomes immediately obvious that their lessons encompass even the most advanced concepts of our modern quantum world." So that our passages of Scripture have become irrelevant and obsolete in our technically advanced world. And in our society, in the way we talk about things, and the way we worship, it's all changed. But he said when the true depths of the parable lessons are unlocked, it has the power to transform our lives in powerful and profound ways. So the great quantum mysteries, I'm working from the book by Dr. Michael Todd, and he says the great quantum mysteries involve how the human mind can actually influence the way matter and energy behave at a subatomic level. That's what I think we're trying to figure out now. How does energy behave and interact? How the matter and energy behave at the subatomic level? The parables reveal quantum mysteries, and their stories show how the messages can actually be applied in useful ways to real problems in our lives, to learn to grasp the message that Jesus is offering as a new thought pattern, as a thought wave that we can take on that will bless and enrich our lives. In our series, Powerful Parables to Enrich Your Life, We're going to learn how to use the parable stories to improve our life and circumstances, to change our thinking, or to grow spiritually. I used to think this way. I've heard this message. Now I'm going to take up this way of thinking. Because what I love about the parables is they're just such common everyday things that we deal with in life that Jesus is saying, had you thought about maybe handling it this way? And he tells it in a story so that we can get the message. There are 30 parables, and they are a kind of secret pathway that offer deep states of personal growth. So if you're here for the next few weeks as we go over the parables, you have an opportunity to reprogram how you've thought about certain things, how you think about debt, how you think about forgiveness, how you think about generosity, how you think about your neighbor, how you think about sharing. All of those are in the parable stories. Studying the parables will bring you to a place where your dreams will finally merge seamlessly with reality, because your pattern of thinking will be renewed. The parables invite you, I have this on a slide, to leave behind the things that are holding you back, and they inspire you to take action to live the reality of the kingdom. They invite you to leave behind the patterns of thinking that aren't working in your life anymore. You know, if you have resentment or anxiety or depression or jealousy or any of that, that's not enriching your life. It's not enriching the health of your body. It's not anything. And so when you learn the stories in the parables, they're new thought patterns that are going to ask you to leave behind those ways of thinking that are impacting your life in less than positive ways, right? So there's no magic path to the kingdom, to kingdom consciousness. The stories involve understanding and then applying the pattern of thought that Jesus is offering. And when you proceed in good faith and do the work that the message is offering, the message that the parables outline, it'll give you it'll get you to the place you want to be in life. Just a new way of thinking. Who here is ready for a new way of thinking and a more enriched way of thinking? Not the way we think is bad, but who wants to enrich how they think? Haven't you thought something during the day and go, oh, I wish I hadn't thought that? Or you think about somebody and I have a negative thought about somebody and I go, oh, I don't want to hold that thought about somebody. I want to forgive them. I want to see them in the true light of who they are. I don't want to think that way. Or you go to the bank and you think, oh, there's going to be a long line. And no, just open the way to your thinking, to change your thinking, to set your intention. They can take you from your current level of consciousness to a level of security, to a level of peace. They can take you from your current level of consciousness to a level of prosperity and love and well-being. One third of all the words attributed to Jesus were found in the parables. And so because they're such a large part of his teaching, I want to assume that it meant a lot to him what he was saying in those stories was an emphasis on his teaching. He knew how to harness intent and belief and how to consciously control them to produce miracles. He knew how to receive an intention. When you get a dream or an intention, you think you've got it and you want to pray to God to bring it into manifestation. But the reality, it starts in God and it downloads into you. That intention, that spark of insight, that idea comes from God. And then it's your work to allow it to flow out unobstructed, to have belief and intention to allow it to flow. Over the centuries, scholars and theologians have devoted vast amounts of time to studying the stories in the parables. And they were originally considered to just be a random collection of stories that Jesus gave with important moral messages. But it's been determined that the 30 lessons were delivered in a very specific sequence, not randomly. So even though Jesus was moving about the countryside and among other people, he'd pop up with a story. And then maybe weeks or days later, he'd pop up with another story. They've determined that they weren't random, that the order of the messages that he was giving was sequentially to grow your consciousness, to grow your understanding. As I said earlier, I'm sharing from the book, The Hidden Parables, Activating the Secret Power of the Gospels by Dr. Todd Michael. And in it, he also says that the parables are not a loosely collected series of teaching stories, but a deliberately sequenced, carefully integrated series of lessons that teach us how to use spiritual thought. How to use spiritual thought. Who here wants to learn how to more effectively use spiritual thought? I do. So Dr. Michael reminds us, he said, Jesus told us in no uncertain terms that we would do even greater works than he did. And the parables are the directions that he gave for how we can arrive at a state of personal growth in which we can do those works. Jesus knew how to harness the phenomenon of intent and belief. He wanted us to know what he knew, and more importantly, to be able to do what he did. The parables are the way he gave us that would allow us to perceive as he perceived, to think as he thought, and to do as he did. He was well aware of how things worked. You can just read the stories of the miracles he performed, and there was something that he knew and understood in terms of that flow of reality, creation reality, and making things happen. And even in the relatively primitive time period that he lived in, long before the advent of science and modern psychology as we know it today, the order of the delivery of the parables provides a logical, artful way to instruct us in his powerful system of knowledge. He's providing us a way for growing our pattern of thought, and it's logical and sequential in order for us to take on, when you learn your ABCs, and then you learn little words, and then you learn bigger vocabulary, you learn your numbers, then you learn your times table, then you learn 1 times 1, 1 times 10, 2 times 1, 2 times 10. It's sequential that your mind can grasp the principles. The question is, how could such an enlightened being embedded in such a primitive time period have communicated what he knew? It's as if he was a genius from the future that was landed into this culture and this society, and how was he going to talk to the people so that they could understand it? But from his place, he tried to construct messages that could somehow communicate the profound teachings that he wanted people to understand. And so using simple words and phrases and concepts that were available to him, he figured out a way to teach using stories, to transmit very advanced spiritual thought patterns and principles that he wanted us to know. Because again, he wanted us to know what he knew, and more importantly, to understand how he understood his relationship to God and to be able to do what he did. He wanted us to be able to heal ourselves. He wanted us to be able to manifest supply for our lives. He wanted us to know how to cope with anxiety and unhappiness and anger and all of that effectively, so we could turn even the darkest night into greater circumstances. He wanted us to be strong. I mean, the people he was with and he moved about, he wanted them to be strong, happy, confident, prosperous, and free. So he created these little stories to reveal highly evolved principles that he comprehended on his journey from when he came on earth as human and advanced his consciousness into Christ consciousness. What path did he follow? What spiritual principles did he learn and integrate into his way of living? So in this series, we'll unlock the stories and show how to take up the principles for our own life, so we can begin to have that enriched pattern of thought and have just those peaceful, harmonious lives. Dr. Michael says, when the words that describe the parables are unpacked and all their information is reconstituted, it's very much like cleaning an old painting. I love this example. Very much like cleaning an old painting, where beneath the surface you find yet another more beautiful, more valuable painting. Remember how in the old days they'd paint over the pictures? They'd use the canvas again and just paint over the picture? Dr. Michael says Jesus was a master of the use of intention to create changes in the world around him. His miraculous healings and displays of reality alteration were possible because he understood the quantum nature of the universe. I don't think he called it that, but he called it the kingdom of heaven. Whenever Jesus lapped into a parable story, he did so specifically to illustrate one of the great principles governing the mysteries of reality creation. I don't know, can you just imagine he's walking among a group of people and then he sees something happen, and so he tells a story about it. You've been around when someone's told a story and then there's silence and the impact that lands on you, right? It just lands and you carry it with you sometimes for years. You don't even know what happens in the moment, but years later you think back to when someone said that and the whole room got silent, and you remember that. Whenever he told one of his stories, he was really trying to tell us, see what I have, whenever he lapsed into the parable story, he illustrated one of the great principles governing the mysteries of reality creation, telling us how to use our own minds to generate better lives. You know, this is a thought pattern that you want to take hold of and practice. This is a thought pattern that in this story, this guy did that you want to take hold of and practice. Whenever he told us of one of his stories, he was really trying to tell us how to use our own minds, our own ideas, our own hearts to generate better states of living, better health, better lives, better worlds for ourselves and for the people that we love. Although the 30 parables are delivered in a well-established chronological sequence, the best place to start their study is not with number 1, but with number 4. The 4th parable is the parable of the sower. And the reason for that is that it's considered the master parable because it gives us the code that unlocks the deepest levels and meanings of all the other parables. Now, how is that? You'll remember just briefly, when we're going to look at more of this parable next week, but you'll remember that the parable of the sower it's delivered in 3 parts. The first part tells the story. You remember a man sows some seed, and some of that seed falls on fertile ground, and some of it falls on unfertile ground. And then what happens to the seed, whether it grows or dies or whatever, it is part of the story. Part 3, that's part 1, he tells the story. Part 3, Jesus interprets the parable, all the people and what's happening in it, and he metaphysically or spiritually interprets the parable. It's the only parable story he gave that he interpreted. He left the rest to just let the words fall and for each person to take from it what they would get from it. Part 2, nestled between here's the story and here's the interpretation, is where he provides vital information pertaining to all the parables, and he introduces several key phrases. Part 2 provides introductory information and key codes for how we're supposed to receive these stories that he's telling us. And it begins with the disciples asking him, why are you telling us all these stories? You know, the disciples, he was always teaching them. They're always around like they were like on the bus that's always late, you know. Well, why are you teaching us? Why are you telling us all these stories? And he answers, because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but it has not been given to the rest. For whoever has, to him will be given, and he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. Because of this, I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Then he says, but your eyes are blessed, because you see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous ones desired to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and didn't hear it. But your eyes are blessed, because it's been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. You've been given the ability to understand, to receive and understand the message. So the way what he's saying to them is secret knowledge can be transmitted by initiate. In other words, I'm going to initiate you, my disciples, into these greater teachings. It was not uncommon in that day for a teacher to impart his wisdom by initiating the student. if Jesus was going to pass along secret knowledge, he probably first was initiated into it himself. I think he was probably initiated into in his own prayer life, But Jesus was first a Jew, Dr. Spong says. Many of his initiations were likely to have been through Jewish mystical traditions. He grew up as a Jew in Jewish traditions. And available to him at that time in his transformative years were the Kabbalah teachings and the teachings of the Essene. And the Kabbalah teachings said the only way to achieve true joy, I think I have that as a slide, yeah. For true joy and fulfillment the only way to achieve that is to become a being of sharing by constantly living and breathing generosity. Think about that as one of his key parables, one of his key lessons. And then the Essenes were teaching the most powerful of all intentions, most powerful of all thought forms is love. Love. Do you start your days think, how can I be more loving today? For every person I run into, how can I radiate some kind of love in meeting them and greeting them? The most powerful thought form is love. 2 or 3 of Jesus' teachings appear and reappear so consistently that they seem to be the greatest and most profound of all in his parables. And the first one of those is our attitudes, visualizations, and intentions have the power to change reality. Mind over matter is a process that can be learned. He's teaching that over and over and over. And the second one is that the mindset of love is the most powerful thought form possible. So if you are in your life and you want to achieve greater peace of mind, mind over matter, if you want to have better fitness for your body, if you want to experience less anger, if you want to be less critical, if you want to get over jealousy, any of that, he's saying our attitudes and intentions have the power to change reality. That mind over matter is the process. And in unity we say thoughts held in mind, what? Produce after their kind, right? What you think about, you bring about. And if you think about love or loving or giving love, that's the most powerful thing you can do. To love yourself enough to say, I love myself enough to give up this critical nature. I love myself enough to give up these bad eating habits. I love myself enough to overcome these feelings of jealousy. So work with love. The second greatest one, the mindset of love, is the most powerful. So next week we'll explore the parable of the sower in great detail using the interpretation Jesus gave. But this week I just want you to pay attention to where you have what I call positionality, where you're so sure you know what you know and you know that you know it and nobody else can tell you differently. To begin to examine the ways that you are so sure about some opinion that may or may need to be revised in order for your your thought patterns to be enriched. And we have an affirmation to work with that this week. Today I'm willing to look at all the opinions I hold. I'm open, receptive, and responsive to new ways of being, thinking, living, and loving. Are you willing to do that this week? Let's just take that second half, I'm open and receptive, and affirm that together. I am open, receptive, and responsive to new ways of being, thinking, living, and loving, right? So if you go out of here and somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're choked up about it, ask yourself, am I willing to see this differently? When anybody cuts me off in traffic, I always think, well, they need to get there a lot faster than I do. So I'll just make way for them. Excuse me. Let's go into a time of prayer. And I have to get the cough to disappear here for a minute. So take a deep breath in and relax your body. Maybe shrug your shoulders and let them down. Shrug your shoulders, let them down. Raise your eyebrows, let them down. Signal your body that you're coming into a time of listening. And as we join together in prayer now, we turn within and we release any outer concern, anything you came in the sanctuary with this morning. Just set that aside for a few minutes and allow God's peace, God's love to fill your awareness. And as we begin to reprogram our thoughts, a good one to work with is, I believe in the renewing life, healing, renewing life of God. That renewing that takes place in our minds and then cascades like a waterfall in and through our bodies, circulating into every cell and fiber, every organ, every action, every function of our bodies. I believe in the healing, renewing life of God. If you're ever tempted to say to yourself about some situation that it looks impossible, there's no solution, right now, this is the place. This is the point. This is the moment to turn your thinking around. I believe in the healing, renewing life of God. Let's affirm it. I believe in the healing, renewing life of God. Now, in our time of quiet, you can envision the light of truth about you. See a shimmering light all around you, top of your head, the soles of your feet, wrapping around your shoulders like a beautiful scarf. You are God's creation. You are blessed with love. You are blessed with strength. You are blessed with security. You are secure in God. So breathing in again deeply and exhaling out, you release all people and all situations into God's care. Your family, your loved ones, your co-workers, your neighbors, our government, our nation, people of the world. You do not let yourself be consumed by negativity, sadness, frustration, or confusion, for you know and you believe in the healing, renewing life of God. You release any hurt, any frustration. You release all of that into the mind of God. And allow any negative feelings to just peacefully drift away. You rest in the realization that a right solution is coming about, being brought into the light. I believe in the healing, renewing life of God. Again, I believe in the healing, renewing life of God. And so feel that healing, renewing presence embracing you, surrounding you. Feel it flowing in and through you from the top of your head, over your face, your neck, down your body, through your abdomen, down your lower extremities, through your legs, thighs, knees, shins, feet, Let it circle around your feet, come up the backs of your ankles, the backs of your calves, your thighs, your buttocks, your back, your spine, your neck, your head, your skull, your brain. Feel God's embracing love and life infilling you. Let that life and love flow into your heart, and know that you are not alone. Let yourself feel comforted and strengthened and filled with new hope about your life. I believe in the healing, renewing life and love of God. And as we call to mind others that are loved ones, prayers for each one of you here this morning, prayers for all in our ministry. We speak a word of blessing for them. The healing, renewing life of God is in you. It's activated now, renewing and restoring. The healing, renewing life of God is mightily at work in you and in your life. This is our prayer for others. We hold bodily healing for them, complete recovery and restoration. We hold peace for their hearts in times of loss. We hold prosperity for their affairs with ample provision and supply. The healing, renewing life of God is mightily at work in you and in your life. And as you think those words and let that thought pattern radiate from you, it comes from you, it has to come through you. The same is true for you. The healing, renewing life of God is mightily at work in you and in your life. And so receive it. Allow it. Say yes to it. I'm going to close our time of prayer with the reminder from 1 John. We have known and believed the love that God has for us. God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. And for just a moment of silence, we abide in God and let God abide in us. And we give thanks now for our beautiful ministry, for our beautiful sanctuary, for our beautiful community. And together we all say,